This Hangout on Air is live. So hi everybody. Welcome. It is iOS 10 day. I didn't realize we would sync up with that, but I was actually surprised at the number of people that I knew who didn't update to iOS 10 during the beta period. Did anyone?
I didn't. But we did. No, my team did. I didn't.
You did bother. Which might have been smart, but
I also didn't update today. I'm the only one that didn't update today also. So.
All right.
My
Anyone
phone's Android. So
You didn't?
I'm expected at work to upgrade to run all the betas immediately, and we have an app that's the only way that you can get email through. So it's very important for me to beta test that app as well. And
So
watch
did
it
you do it on your primary device, or do you have a?
so this is the work device.
Okay, exactly.
So
Sacrificial lamb.
they're willing to pop for that for me and the whole nine. So definitely all the way through. But I also put it on at home immediately as well on the iPad because I was just ready for the bumps and bruises. Once fast app switching got stable, it wasn't that bad. Didn't crash immediately or like slow to a halt immediately when you're trying to switch apps. It was okay.
Yeah, I don't think I ran into any real problems during the beta period. We were talking a
You
little
just
bit.
couldn't text each other.
Besides that, well, that's
Well, we could, though.
that's messages.
Just not the
Not the
pretty
fancy
ones.
stuff, and that turned out to be. I was trying to use all the fancy stuff in messages, all the new, the loud, and just as a goof with Tom, and it would not. I would do the long press, and it wouldn't go, and it wouldn't go, and it wouldn't go, and it turns out if you have reduced motion turned on in accessibility, it disables all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Which I'm not sure I agree with. Someone had to point it out to me because honestly, I never would have made the link between the two. I just like
That
frustrated,
seems
like why
weird,
doesn't this
actually,
work?
Well,
Okay.
if you want reduced motion,
That's right.
But they could reduce the motion without disabling it. Or it was just a bad UI experience.
Right.
That you had no reason why, no understanding why this wouldn't work. Anyone doing the iPhone 7?
tomorrow
Yeah.
or
Fun.
Friday.
Not for production.
Yeah. I am
Just
only because I'm on
buy.
a 6.
on the way to work, see if the line's long.
Yeah. I think if I was on a 6S,
It'll be long.
I think if I was on a 6S, it wouldn't be as compelling.
Yeah.
That's my take
That's what
on it.
I'm on now, so it's like
You have the 3D touch, you have, you get the raise to wake
K9.
or raise to notifications, you get dictation, you get all this stuff. Like, I'm not sure that the 7 is enough of a leap over that. Whereas for me, I get all that stuff. Being on a 6. And then, I get the new shiny and I can pass my 6 along to a family member or something. But
So, can I ask a question about OS 10? And this is
sure.
a little bit selfish, but I noticed that someone else also bikes a lot. So when I have an Android phone as well, and the great thing about Android, and I'm saying this because also I heard a Walt Mossberg podcast about this, is like the voice recognition and the AI. So I can just be like, hey Google or whatever, and text, or you can run way more voice commands on it, and it's a really great feature as someone who can't always look at
Yeah.
his phone. And I was wondering if anyone I haven't read anything about that, but because I heard this Walt Mossberg thing, I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna upgrade Siri or work on other features with that.
So they did. I agree with you. I go back and forth between phones. I use Android a lot. I've been using iOS for the past few months. And there are a ton of things that I miss from Android. Like, I still think the notifications are better on Android. I really like how much you can customize them, how much you can do from them. I think Android has always been ahead in the notification department, and they just keep edging ahead. I'm sure there are people who disagree with that, but that's one thing that I miss. And definitely the voice recognition on Android devices, I think, is a little bit ahead. Although Apple's announcement at WTC this year for iOS 10 was that they were going to open that up a bit. But you're going to have to wait for developers to to get that into their applications, right? Is it called Siri Kit? It was either called
Some-
Siri Kit or
something like
something
that.
like that, that allows a developer to make their app and their commands for their apps available via Siri. And also with Siri, the Siri Kit, it's like a very specific set of commands. I don't think you could let Siri tie into anything in your app. It was like, well, if your app falls into like these specific categories, you can do it. Otherwise, you're kind of out of luck.
So the other reason I thought is because the big HomeKit
Yeah.
boost, and I was like, oh, so we're like that far from being like, hey Siri, turn the oven, preheat to 375.
Yeah, and I think HomeKit is one of the categories that they're blowing wide open, right? Like I think they want to keep up with Google and Amazon on that front, where they want to have this voice-controlled home. That seems to be one of the categories that it's really open. So, first of all, I never call it Siri. I just I feel weird. Like I don't need a name. You're a thing, right? But I use it all the time when I'm driving. I'm going to pick up my daughter. That's the new thing, right? Like your kids, it's like you're an Uber. They text you, come pick me up. Okay, on my way. And then you get there and you don't go meet the parents of where you don't go ring the bell and say like I'm here to pick up my daughter, right? You just get there and you text them, come out, I'm waiting for you. But I try to game the system and like I'm a block away and I'll go boop, boop, text Lily, I'm here to pick you up. Like I do that all the time and that works really well.
Mhm.
But I think that functionality's been there for a bit.
Yeah. Does the 6 have Hey Siri? 6S? You can just do Hey Siri. And start listening.
I don't remember. I think it does, but it's not something I'm interested in.
I turn mine off.
Yeah.
I think
It saves a lot of battery.
plugged in.
Yes, that's right. I think if it's plugged in.
Yeah,
it'll-
it's a battery issue because otherwise it's always.
Yeah. But, well, that's, does the 6S and the above do it without being plugged in?
It does the thing about being plugged in. Try it. Hey Siri.
I think it's also plugged in.
Hey
Yeah.
Siri.
You have to actually train it so that it knows your voice versus ambient other
Yeah. Oh,
people's
really?
voices. Yeah, otherwise, it's like.
All our viewers just had Siri.
Yeah.
Hey
Well,
Siri.
It's them with the Xbox, right?
Yeah, oh man, that's an
Hey,
amazing
Siri.
case study. Over video, yeah, just people's
Hey, Siri.
Xboxes powering off. Or like walk into an Apple store, hey Siri.
Hey Siri.
Look,
How's the weather today?
Dude, there was the guy who he changed his gamer tag to the Xbox sign out.
Siri.
And you were like, hey, this guy's gamer tag Xbox sign out. Oh shit, no. Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's it. We need to
Well
start
done.
having our user IDs be hey Siri.
Hey,
Okay,
Siri.
Google.
Yeah.
Hey Siri.
So yeah, I think to answer your
There it
question.
goes.
Oh, it does it without being plugged in?
Yeah.
Nice. So I think to answer your question, it's a bit of a waiting game as developers. It's kind of like all the stuff they announced with messages and sticker packs and iMessage applications. There are a few on the store as of today, but over time, we're going to see more and more. So iOS 10, did iOS 10 bring any features that anyone cares deeply about? The one that I'm missing that I'm really disappointed because I'm not an Apple Watch person is the unlock. Unlock your Mac with your...
And I haven't been able
Totally
to run
coming.
the beta.
Wait for the new Mac. Yeah.
Oh, is it not available? Well, it needs Sierra, which I'm already on, but yes.
I mean, this is actually the most attractive thing about the new Messages app. I mean, come on.
The stickers,
The
or,
category.
yeah, the
Which I didn't
gifts.
realize, installing the sticker, if there's an app behind it, it installs the app.
I thought
Which is
it
kinda
could
like,
display
meh.
it.
It's lame, yeah.
I thought it displayed it, but then put a message that said, "Hey, you can get this."
Well, this one was a specific, hey, here's the sticker interface, and you're installing it from Messages. Guess what's on your home screen now on any device that you auto download to.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like, thanks, guys.
yeah, that's an interesting vector.
But I mean, people were annoyed about how like they couldn't get Mario to sit properly on the Messages when they tried to attach the stickers. But I just like send it. I'm not trying to get all artful on top of Messages. But the prince from Katamari Damacy is totally
It is
totally
funny.
cute.
There are a number of Apple people so Google had the Google I/O event, was it a week or two ahead of WWDC, or maybe a few weeks even. and Google had a new messaging app, Duo, and that was one of the big features of it. Same thing, you slide your finger and you can choose the size of the text and stickers and these animations. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is stupid, this is stupid. And then 2 weeks later, Apple has the same thing. Now, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying they copied it because that's not enough time to get all this stuff into the app. But all those people were quickly like, oh, yeah, I guess it's all right. So
Kind of like screen size.
screen size. Yeah, I mean,
That one forever. I heard like these things are too big.
yeah,
And
competition's good. I mean, this is like my test device, and I hate it. Right, like it doesn't go into my pocket. It's just it's a crazy.
It's a dirigible, yeah.
It's a crazy big device. I'm surprised they didn't lose the camera bump on the 7s, just from a.
They
I hate-
they melded it better into the case.
I would have rather had a rounded section at the top of the phone. It would feel better in your hand. It would protect the camera a bit better.
Doesn't sound like
Physics.
Apple to me.
I'm shocked.
Can't beat physics.
I'm shocked, but
They should.
the new watch, does that interest anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play Pokemon Go.
Oh, that's right. That was the big.
I could use a faster with a better graphics processor, but believe me, but like
Standalone GPS.
can't buy a $300+ watch every year. Like that's not really in the cards.
Right. I mean, I guess that's the difference now, making a watch a piece of technology, whereas traditional watches are like something you get and you can hold on to it for forever. And almost the older it is, the cooler it is to some degree. Like if you got a really nice.
It's an accessory like a belt, like something that is.
Yeah, there's something about having this. Oh yeah, I've had these for 20 years or 15 years, right? Like there's something.
I was into the ceramic until I realized it was over freaking $1,200.
Really?
Yes, it's the new gold.
CEO edition.
The ceramic is so attractive, so attractive. Like a like uncommon material like that is so attractive to me, and yet there's
Come
no
on.
way in hell.
Wow.
Can't get it just because it's bling. Like, not really like that. Especially when it comes to accessories.
Is this also? I'm trying to jog my memory. Is this also rare that we're getting iOS today and Sierra a week later? 'Cause they
Only in
usually
the
do-
fact that they've even told us when we're getting Sierra.
Yeah.
They do
like,
point updates in lockstep because there are a lot of things that sync between the OSs and they keep those on the same day. But I don't remember with major releases.
No, they're separate. I sent out
They-
separate giant do not update emails.
Yes, we all have our do not update emails ready.
we're validated, so hasn't actually been an issue like we're waiting for the people who give enough of a crap to bother us about it, and then we'll just upgrade them and let them be 0.0 guinea pigs, and that's fine.
So
Our team won't upgrade until we work out the documentation of the migration. That's not a big deal.
what's your upgrade procedure for? Do you let people upgrade from the App Store if they want to?
Well, it's like the techs told me, hey, we don't want to schedule with these people, so we'll push it through Monkey and we'll just have them schedule it before we update the manifest so that they're ready for a 5 gig download. And they're ready to confirm with us afterwards that there's nothing that looks or feels different that they're therefore going to be concerned with. And we need to push the Puppet module that Graham Gilbert just finished, which
Oh, what
is
was that
to
for?
put FE2 auth plugin back into the auth mechanisms after the upgrade.
Oh.
And crypt. Well, I mean, like crypt, we don't need to worry about because nobody's going to decrypt if it's an out in the field
Yeah.
machine that's getting upgraded. But FE2 auth plugin we do need if the machine changes hands / it's a multi-use machine.
So
what's
the upgrade clears the
Auth mechanisms
auth database.
from the specifically from login, right? Yeah. And it's it's kind of theirs
Well,
in
it
a
does have
way.
PAM too, so makes sense.
But they filed the bug, they waited, they escalated, they enterprise supported, and big ol' goose egg. So yeah.
Someone on Slack just asked if this meeting was sponsored by Dasani. I left the bottle there in focus. So no, it is not. I will move that out of the way. Sorry for the distraction. So unlike iOS, anyone here with a Mac, have the Mac people been running the betas of Sierra and testing and checking
Since point one,
since
running
point one?
on mine, or since it was still preview, right?
I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we've been testing and
We've seen very few issues.
We've
Can't
seen,
think
yeah.
of any, really.
nothing that's a showstopper. And I think that we are in position to roll out 0.0, right? So
We don't have enough on LCAP to worry about the upgrades
Really?
just yet because we had a hold up in Citrix. We
yeah,
had-
I mean, if apps that you run have been dictating your rollout schedule, that's a little different.
They just caught up a couple months ago, so
We
we're clear to proceed now.
definitely like getting people on the latest and greatest for a number of reasons, not the least of which being security. Of course, if you look at Apple's release notes for every point update, you know, there are certainly that puts to rest the idea that Macs are invulnerable to security attacks or don't have any holes in them or anything like that.
At least the window of when they allowed the entire Mac platform to be 0 day has gone down to like what, 2 weeks now instead of a month?
Yeah, I mean,
Was it 921 or something that there was a huge SSL issue and they just said, "Oh, we're pushing out this patch on like a Thursday afternoon,
the
a Friday,
iOS
right?"
Patch went out on Friday.
On a
and then
Friday.
The Mac one sit till
Sat for like a month.
Monday or no. It was like the next week, but
Yeah.
it was still like this known thing. That was the go-to fail.
Yes.
Issue. Yeah, it was like the next week, but it was still a bit
But the Trident
frustrating.
one,
Like sitting there thinking, like, okay, there's this well-known vulnerability.
Yeah.
And everyone, just turn off your Mac for the weekend. Like, just don't use your Mac for the weekend. They've gotten better. This used to be something we tracked fairly closely. Like, how long does Apple take to patch something once it's known? And you're right, that window has gotten smaller. It's not always as short as we'd like to see it, but they've gotten better. But you know, their focus is still clearly on iOS. But then again, there are an order of magnitude more iOS devices
a billion.
out there.
Those devices, there are not a billion Macs out there.
Right. So, speaking of Siri, for now in Sierra, we get Siri. I don't ever envision using it. Maybe other people will, but
Does it work now? When I last looked at it, it was like it did almost nothing.
I think you're right. There was like one of the early previews, and I tried it, and it didn't do anything. I don't think I've tried it since because I'm just not.
Has anyone tried it
I'm
recently?
certainly not unfamiliar with using dictation in my computer, but it's still not the thing I would reach for. I think I'm just around other people too much, and it's like you're disturbing them, right? I'm either like
Yeah, by
maybe on
yelling
the
at Siri.
train, or I'm in an office with other people, and it's just not the thing that I'm going to go reach for. Whereas on my phone, I love Siri for reminders, and that, like, if I'm walking down the hallway or I'm not disturbing other people, and I can say, "Hey, remind me to get bread, milk, and butter later," or whatever it is, right? When I get home, go do this thing.
Was this 1957?
Yes.
Milk and butter?
Yeah. Isn't that the canonical example?
Like, yeah.
Go into the store.
Do you store your recipes on your computer too?
Yeah. You know, that's one thing I've always tried and has never worked out.
Yeah.
I have all these recipe apps, and it's not the way I do that. I'd be much better off just getting a notebook,
There's Evernote.
Evernote or something. But no, like, you need a real physical thing. Like cookbooks, I'll try to cook from, but I'm never going to stand up my eye. As much as I think that's a good idea, I never reach for my iPad and go, let me look up a recipe.
Yeah, like a matter replicator.
Stand that up.
Technology.
Yeah, I had the tablet before, but then, of course, I have it set to lock its screen every 5 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah. And now your hands are all
Yeah.
greasy and you don't want to touch the thing.
So if I had a tablet I use just for that, but I could, not worry about the trust and just, but yeah.
So back to a question for you rolling out. How are you rolling out? You said you're pushing, was it OS 10 Create?
Create OS 10 cell package
Create OS 10 with Monkey.
with
That's
Monkey.
it.
And that's it. We schedule with them so that they know that it's going to kill their internet while they're pulling it on our crappy Wi-Fi. They know afterwards that they need to put in their firewall password on the first reboot, so it actually continues the install. And they need to validate with us that everything came through on the other side.
And how
That
do you-
like,
That last one, yeah. What does that look like?
oh, they just open whatever app they were using before and tell me that things still look like they used to. Like,
Tell you?
oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Like we SSH to the box to do some remediation.
Okay.
Like that's why we're scheduling in the first place.
Yeah, I was just thinking about remote and multi-user and
Well, we don't expect them to do this over the WAN.
okay.
Even though they can pull 5 gigs from our WAN because we have a data center, we're not worried about that. It's more that like it's just not nice to everybody.
Yeah.
And if they need to put it in a ticket with our networking team, like now's the time.
Yeah.
Now's the time when you're actually on network and trying to get something done. But I mean, that makes it also so that there's no storming, stampeding herd of us just putting it live anywhere. It would have to be somewhat gated so that it wouldn't overwhelm.
Are you stopping people from updating from the App Store?
We don't need to because they're standard users.
Well,
And if they actually came to us and said, hey, I'm annoyed, you wouldn't let me get this, we would say, no, we'll do it right now. You want me to plug in the password? I don't care if that's how they get it.
Yeah.
But no one's going to do that. Nobody. They're going to listen to Apple's notifications and notification center about look at how awesome LCAP would be. Like, they just don't listen. So that's fine. They have other things to concentrate on. But we had an issue only with like VPN. That was it. But that was enough of a blocker that we just let everybody stay on the OS. And if they wanted to, they could bother us about it, and we would tell them about that drawback, and they would say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little wrapper application that lets people upgrade, and it just tries to fend off the problems of we don't have enough disk space. And,
Right.
Tries to help people so they know why it fails if it fails.
I think the dist will have that, though. It fetches data about like what you should know for LCAP in general, and is able to shove that into the distribution file. So I think Kratos 10 install package does some of that. At least it's verifying board IDs. It's verifying that like this is applicable for you. So we haven't needed to worry about that because there's not really a lot of logic in Monkey to say, hey, do you have disk space? It's like,
Right.
have an appropriate package, you're going to get the outcome you want. If what we deliver in the way of the package has that logic, we don't need to worry about wrapping anything else with it.
Well, I mean, our thing does some other small, clever things, but like where it fetches the package from.
Sure.
But we do let people update from the App Store if they so desire. We actually haven't put anything to block that, have we? Before we're ready, I don't think we have.
No, that's when we're fine.
Well, the only knobs exposed are no store for you or store.
Yeah, which is frustrating. But yeah, at this stage, the Apple Updater does all the right stuff for us. So I don't like that's something we have to think about. Like next week, do we care if people update? I don't know.
I thought you would be caring more about turning off documents and data.
We already do that.
Well,
So
the knobs are different now.
yeah, the knobs are different now. We actually, this is one of the frustrating things from Apple, right? Like, you can manage by profile, and that's all awesome. And then you find these profiles, and you go, oh, great, I'm going to push this out. And it works for iOS, and it doesn't work on the Mac. And you ask Apple, and they go, yes, that only works on iOS. So Apple has a fairly granular system for managing iCloud by profile. It only works on iOS. On the Mac, it doesn't do anything. So we take a fairly heavy-handed approach to clobbering that on the Mac. We do allow people to turn it back on, but it just sort of pops a warning that says, like, hey, just be aware of what you're doing. Like, we don't really want to stop people from doing all this stuff. Like, we don't stop people from installing, let's say, Dropbox, right? But we do want people to be conscious about what they're storing in there. But at the end of the day, like, hey, you're all grown-ups. Like, if this is something you really need and or helps you be productive, then okay.
They added to the docs though. There is a new
Okay, good.
a new payload for it.
Okay,
We
cool.
only figured it out a little bit ago, and it kind of showed up out of nowhere. There's Cloud Document Sync. Or is that the one? Pretty sure that is. That stops the, hey, we're going to send your desktop and documents to iCloud. You'll need to upgrade first, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that is one thing with Sierra that they've worked that functionality. They've integrated all of that a little bit more. And I think we're not doing anything to clobber this either, but I think the first time you start up Sierra,
Yeah.
it says, hey, do you want to store the contents of desktop and documents in iCloud? So
Yeah.
that's something that I kind of forgot about that I should probably look at.
I think we do something with that.
Yeah, our general clobbering
Yeah.
might be
I think
dealing
it
with
catches
that.
that because I didn't see that one upgraded.
it's like the Fantastic Four thing.
Yeah, actually,
It's clobber
I think I might have just saw that on my home machine, which is why I know about it. But yeah, I did a Sierra update today on an iMac, and I don't think I saw it. So I don't know. Crushing it. Tim Sutton in the Slack channel also is reminding us that Sierra is the first release to officially require 10.7.5 instead of 10.6.8, and I did forget about that. That's right. So you need to be on at least 10.7.5 for people to upgrade, which
Really?
What's that?
Well, I mean, if your
Okay.
hardware can run it in the first place, it is
Yeah.
not already on 10.7, it's pretty long in that tooth.
It is pretty long in the tooth, but
That's when you can actually do. You couldn't get up to 10.6.8 because you had no App Store before that. 10.7.5, you could just update and then update.
Yeah.
So you
yeah,
would just wipe
so-
an image anyway.
But that is, Apple did let you update to 10.11 from fairly old releases, so it's just yet another thing to keep in mind. So you're saying you're ready for Tuesday, whatever the 20th is, right? Or Monday.
Well, more like we know that there's no demand, and also they just released a second GM, so
No demand.
our customers do not demand.
Wow.
Like we have two people who will actually be on top of me about getting it to them, and I'll say, hey, okay, it's not the second GM, and therefore obviously they're still working stuff out on Sierra. This is the final release from the App Store. Okay, no problem. Kratos 10 install package, pushing it to you, you're scheduling the time.
Huh.
That won't be an issue for two people. For the rest of the entire organization, it's the same, hey, we need to schedule you and you need to care about it. Okay, hey, no, really,
Yeah.
we're going to upgrade you. And it's however many people that are already in management, and even that is not all that much.
So
We're ready to move forward.
in Slack, lots of Macs are getting dropped arbitrarily. I have an old 2008 MacBook Pro that works flawlessly with Sierra, Sierra GM. So, yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand Apple not officially supporting a 2008 MacBook Pro. I don't know. At some point, there's some component in there that you don't want to be writing the drivers for or whatever.
8 years is a good life.
It's a pretty good run for technology. Yeah. Can't complain about that one too much. Although I will admit I'm not one of those people trying to stretch the life of my hardware that much.
It depends if it's a Mac Pro or something. If it's a really expensive, good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's supported or not. I didn't actually look.
It kind of depends. I think that's the thing we're all, probably everyone in this room is really waiting for, Apple to announce new hardware. We haven't seen updated hardware from Apple in a few years. The Mac Pro being one of them, and the MacBook Pros certainly another one. We haven't seen. We got the MacBooks, but after a brief love affair with the MacBooks, I'm mostly back to this bigger hardware because I either run media intensive stuff or whatever.
Need
It's
more than one port.
yes, and exactly.
One or the other.
The ports is a piece of it, you know, without needing an adapter or dongle or whatever. So,
Well, I lucked out that I went to Japan and therefore could get all of the USB 3.1 Gen 2 hardware I could possibly want. So I can actually target disk mode boot the damn thing. Like, if you don't have the right cable,
we have painfully found that out.
it's kind of hilarious. But like in Japan, of course, like they list that, oh, that's the 10 gig one. So yes, that is Gen 2. Like it was way too specific and easy for me to find over there. But I expect that Sierra has opened the floodgates and that this is part of your embrace the Sierra. It's what your machine comes with. Guess what? You can't roll back. That's it.
Yeah.
Bring out your dead.
Are you doing anything with DEP and Macs? Or not?
No, because we don't use MDM on Macs yet.
So here's the interesting thing, and I meant to follow up with him. I saw a comment, not in Twitter, surprisingly, on a mailing list from Eric Dreyer, who's sort of deep into this stuff and has written the official Apple guides to some of this stuff. He said that you can enroll a Mac in DEP without it being assigned to an MDM. I'm not entirely sure
for sure.
the point of that, other than just asserting that the company owns this, right?
Asset inventory.
It's big if
It's
you get locked
really easy
down.
to check your asset inventory without having to pay the extra price for an MDM. And then it's also,
And you can flip it on at some future point.
totally.
Apple support also. I mean, on the iOS side, you get locked out activation lock. It needs to be in DEP to get out of it. Similar things will be true with the Mac, although it's harder to get locked out of that because there's no activation lock. But anything that you need Apple to actually unlock for you, they won't do unless it's in DEP.
Ah.
Or you can go back and find your purchase order and start up the
Is
chain.
there any digital functionality to DEP without MDM? Or is it just?
No, but you could flip it. You could
You
then
can turn it on,
take a
sure,
range
it's
of them
still
and say,
checking with Apple every,
But that's by design because
Right.
they could, track the device and do all sorts of other things, but they purposely don't want to do that.
Okay.
So I would say it's probably, in my opinion, it's good that they have a lot of not features because I don't want those features.
I guess DEP is pretty much the only way, both for iOS devices and the Mac, for a company to very strongly assert that they own this hardware.
No, iOS, you could do Apple Configurator. Start up a supervision relationship with the device.
That's
Slightly different
graceful.
supervision.
It's a different. It's a
The supervision framework is the same. It is
No,
when it's
I'm
over the
saying
air
I'm not
from
talking
DEP or when it's local from Apple Configurator.
I'm not talking about the technology of it. I'm talking about
Sure.
DEP. You have to be a corporation to purchase.
Right, you need your purchase orders, your
That's what I'm
purchasing
talking
to
about.
be
I'm not
associated
talking
with
about
you as an entity.
Receiving a device, hooking up to configurator, and putting it in supervision. I'm talking about
Right.
going back to Apple and saying, like, hey, this is hardware that we own, like very clearly. Like it's the company's. It wasn't a BYOD, right?
Yeah.
That to me is the real difference. And with DEP, yes, the technology is there that you don't have to touch the device. Right, like I don't know how many iPhones we order a month or quarter or whatever it is, but to have to ask an inventory group to unbox them, get them supervised, like that would be a bit
That would be like 2 years ago.
ominous.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not that retro.
More than that.
We weren't supporting iOS devices officially 2 years ago,
Yeah,
so
4 years.
we missed that phase of.
We're
crappiness.
4 years now. And iCloud was big on that too. I used to have to plug each one into iTunes.
Or
iPCU.
Right.
That was fun.
Kiosk only mode.
Cool. Anyone else with deployment or getting ready for Sierra or Sierra destroying your plans or it's all good? Like I think we've been pretty happy through the beta. I don't think we have any real worries.
I'm glad because we're all going to be out of the country next week anyway. So
That's true. We're all going to be away when it drops, so
thanks, Apple.
we can just let people run wild with it. Like 10.11 brought us SIP. So like we're already in the pain of SIP. So, this is nothing new really. I'm trying to think what Sierra brings. I don't know. I can't think of anything that is really throwing us off.
No, I mean, when they watching WWDC, it was my reaction of the stuff they talked about during the keynote was like, these are all things that we're going to disable, right?
Right.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of the other stuff they talked about in the other sessions was interesting. But like the keynote bits, the user visible bits were like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
For me to poop on.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, the logging stuff changed, but it still has the same. It's still, you can still look at it the same way as before. That just, so we need to kind of, our log collection tool probably should pull it from the better location rather than the legacy location.
Yeah, the logging is a bit different though.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't broken down into individual files that you kind of have to use.
Yeah, it's all sort of ASL first,
Or more like
and
you're superseded by the fact that the new command is your front end to, and like the weird thing is that like waiting for results to come back is kind of like, what is going on? Like, why am I waiting for you to, like, am I jogging your memory? Would it like help in like an extra sketch if I like shaked it for the log lines to come out? It's kind of weird.
And there's that whole like you have to put certain apps into like a more open logging
For
mode,
post-logging?
like because
Debugging
by
mode?
default, if you've looked at logs in Sierra, by default there's a lot of like open directory, and the message is like private. What the hell? So there are ways to toggle that so you can see what's going on, but by default, like if you run Xcode, you get a ton of log spam that just says like Xcode private. Okay.
Why are you even telling me?
But so yeah, like I said, there is a way to toggle it into this mode where you can see it. And I think some of the tools like what's that crazy one that
Oh, the system diagnostic something or other.
that one. Like if you send it to Apple, they can see what's going
Right.
on.
Snapshot.
That dumps a whole bunch at once.
Whatever that thing is.
Whatever.
Yeah, the
Stack shot?
stack shot.
That's
That's
not
it.
bad.
There's one that collects a bunch of logs.
Dasani for you.
But some of the log messages give you part of a line. It says like, oh, client private did blah, blah, blah in open directory. So yeah, you're right. The logging is stuff we need to dig a little bit more into. They've been evolving that over time, which has been kind of nice. From the point of time where they just sort of silently replaced syslog-d to be ASL, and now it's this database and you can query it and do some clever things.
New console app is nice that you can search for a string across multiple files.
Yes.
Super cute. Really appreciate that.
Stack trace as you go through and see where holes came from. It's neat.
Yeah. So I think there are nice.
Usability wise, it's a pain in the butt though that like they gray out your search term. Like you can collapse the toolbar. Like you've left it in there. You click on another file, you don't realize the search term was still there. You're not getting results. There's lots of like, don't worry, it's actually unloved like reminders, but it's still better than it was in the fact that functionality, once you are vigilant about what you're doing, there's more of that.
Am I remembering it wrong, or was that completely written in Swift?
Very well could be.
I read that somewhere.
There are a bunch of things that they say they've written in Swift, and some of them they genuinely have, and some of it's just like it's a piece written in Swift.
MRT is written in Swift. It's just kind of like totally random, but I ran strings on it and I'm like, huh. I guess you guys are ready for the Yara signatures coming down. Hopefully.
So Swift, wow, that's a whole other bucket of fun. But in the being positive about Swift, iOS 10 ships, I don't know if it ships with it, or you can download it, the Swift Playgrounds.
Yeah.
It was with the
on
beta,
iOS.
and then they messed with you that they said they were going to dump your data like halfway through the betas for
Yeah.
Playground. I was like, so
Yeah.
like, why are you giving me this horrible UX? So it was like, why you got to do that?
I
But
gotta say, if you're looking to learn Swift, it's not a bad introduction. And if you are already versed in Swift, just getting to the playgrounds is really kind of nice to have on iOS. It's kind of cool. You can do some clever stuff. I'm curious to see how they go forward with that, and if they give you more of a real development environment over time. That could be interesting. We'll see. But so the Swift Playgrounds app gives you playgrounds, and it has all these lessons that you have this character on screen. You have to give him commands to move around and collect gems and not fall off the side of the board or things like that. So it's actually a clever little introduction. If anyone's looking at that. Is everyone still for automation? Is everyone still mostly sticking with Python or
JavaScript.
well, that's official now, right?
Yeah.
No.
It's been official for a bit, but they deprecated UI automation.
With JavaScript.
No, like in general, like
Period.
there was a older framework that from AppleScript, I believe, like Watch Me or stuff. I believe that's deprecated completely now.
I haven't looked at AppleScript in a while, so I've kind of lost track.
I mean, like since I'm dropping Cocoa Dialog and trying to move things to Nibbler, except that we have a lot of multi-pane things that we need to do a series of GUIs for. Except like the GUI is like so much richer when I'm actually using a nib.
Yeah.
But that's still half the time I need escalated privileges, so I'm wrapping in AppleScript because the trampoline, that ghetto trampoline.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, again, we just write a lot of stuff in Objective-C. Because you have access to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Without jumping through crazy hoops and pulling a Michael Lynn and using C types. Like.
Oh, that's what Nibbler is. I
Yes.
was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That hackathon.
Yep.
Clever. He does a lot of clever
Speaking
stuff.
of-
but
Jeremy and I need to post our
that's right.
hackathon project
Shit.
to the App Store.
Yeah.
Send them a note.
Yeah. Sticker pack with MacAdmin. Anyone else? Questions? We normally do our conference roundup. We have Nexus Admin coming up. So if you're not already going or speaking, then it's probably too late. It's like in 3 weeks. We have MacTech coming up after that. It is not too late to speak or attend. Still certainly taking suggestions, looking for people. And then what would be after that? I don't think there's anything else major through the end of the year after that. And we wrap around to 2017, and I know the MacAdmin folks in London had a call for speakers already.
It's over.
It's over. Wow.
Yeah.
They're on top of the things,
They are.
man.
I assume it's over.
Did you apply?
I did.
You did? Nice.
They said yes.
Nice.
I don't know why. I have to ask what I said I was going to talk about.
Yeah, that one each year has run on my wife's birthday, so, and this year's basically
Birthday in London.
I made that suggestion.
February is so quaint in London.
Yeah, generally go for it.
That's a word.
So that's going to be a tough one. And then I guess after that we have Mac DevOps back in Vancouver, which I'm absolutely going to try to attend in 2017.
Those good conference players.
Yeah. I think for me, 2017 is going to be trying to get to conferences that I haven't been to, and been meaning to get to. There are kind of a bunch of them between MacAdmin and developer conferences that I keep saying I'm going to get to, and then I don't. And then they announce this is going to be our last year, and I go, I missed them. So I want to try to get to some of these, but definitely Mac DevOps. He's been growing that a bit more. Seems like a good event. And I like Vancouver. Vancouver's a nice city.
And it's usually around the solstice, so there's like 18 hours of daylight. Or 18 hours of daylight up north.
He hasn't officially announced a date for it yet, and it's run by MadX. And I actually got on the phone with him to say, please don't get too close to any other events, because that's what's prevented me from going the previous 2 years. This year he was a week ahead of Penn State, and I was already committed to going to Penn State. And prior year, he was a week ahead of WTC, and I was already going out to San Francisco. So hopefully this year, it's not too much travel in a short period of time. Any other announcements? No?
Update your Flash.
Ugh. I just,
Update. Delete.
Oh yeah, remove your Flash.
Permanently remove.
yeah.
We-
I
we-
have not installed Flash on a machine in so long. I just do without it.
Yeah,
We made a launcher called Open Flash. We put it in people's docs. It says what URL you're trying to get to and opens it in Chrome.
Nice. It's clever.
It's like the boss came up with the idea.
In general, I haven't even resorted to that. I don't think Flash has been a blocker for me for anything.
Right, but our customers, they think of
Absolutely.
icon on their desktop, like literally they tell us, hey, can you push the shortcut to our desktop for a website, right?
That
And
used to
I'm
be a
like-
thing like with Windows.
Yeah.
Like much,
Yes,
much
but
more. They're
that's-
bringing that into Mac OS.
That's what our
Like you're saying.
customers understand.
That's clever.
So we put an icon in their dock because they understand an icon on their dock now. That's the new paradigm for them. They don't worry as much about the desktop, they worry about the dock.
Interesting.
We put something that looks like the Flash installer, but like our number one vector of people infecting themselves is even though Flash is already installed on certain machines that haven't been corrected, they download it and they try to run the totally legit install Flash. And then they didn't get the result they wanted, and yet they don't tell anybody about it.
just block the Flash installer with Santa.
There you go.
Well, more like block anything that's not a signed installer.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, you guys allowed Dropbox, but Dropbox has
Well,
2 set UIDs
yeah.
and a Dropbox installer in /library/Dropbox helper tools.
Yeah. I'm not saying we're not always, we're not continually evaluating and reevaluating all this stuff. I don't think Dropbox is really nefarious, right?
Well,
We
just
might not like
the
their
thing is,
methods.
you gotta fingerprint it. Otherwise, people
yeah.
in lockdown are gonna see that message every time it self-updates.
I'm assuming
You're just smacking the
we're-
self-update.
No, I assume we're whitelisting their certificate.
It's not signed.
And then there's
Oh.
2 helpers that we have to explicitly focus on.
Well,
We have enough people at this point, and those binaries must be loaded up at this point. So,
so I mean, there's a bunch of software that we might not love how they do it, but it's like
It's not malware.
It's not really.
right, and our internal, like, there's plenty of ways to use Santa, but our internal thought is it's not to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. Like, we're not going to enforce, like, we're not going to block Steam just because you don't usually play games. No, that's fine. Just keep
Right.
doing the things you want to do. Just have someone else verify that it's cool first, right? With Santa, we have this whole internal voting thing,
So
right? Like, run whatever you want.
so you don't
but
need to sit
if
on
it-
top of unsigned helper
So
files
unsigned helpers will
because
occasionally crop up, but it's not a big deal because the first person to run into that, and the idea is the first person to run into that will say, this seems legitimate, please
make it happen.
or also say yes, and then magically that's fine. And enough people say yes, then everyone gets it.
And that's the next part of the project is open sourcing a server for Santa. So
Yeah.
we are. That's not a
Right.
We were just
talking
We discussed the
per
time
se,
frame on it.
It's something I was pushing for a while ago, and then we got delayed for a number of other reasons. I think we are closer than ever, though, to being able
Closer than ever.
to. Well, it's difficult
Well,
in some ways, but
we haven't moved backwards.
Yeah.
yes, we haven't moved that right.
Yeah, I mean, we had the, what's the charter of the server is internally is expanded somewhat. It's not just Santa it's other things as well, which sort of slowed things down, but it's better in the end. So.
So so internally, we can have people vote on things and not have an admin sit there have to.
Right. You don't need to sit on top of, okay, this new release came out. So, but that's what I'm doing in auto package though, is I'm looking at those certs.
Oh yeah.
I only have it at the, when it's a zipped .app bundle though. I need to expand my processor to say, okay, if it's in a package, if it's in a payload somehow, I need to get at it
Well,
to be able to let Santa look at it.
I mean, depending on how you're starting with Santa. I mean, so we were lucky that we put it out in monitoring mode and started collecting logs for a year and a half or something
Right.
like that.
I only have 1,000 events
Right.
waiting to upload.
Yeah. So I mean, so we had this huge of all of our machines everywhere saying here's all the binaries and the certificates are signed with and everything being uploaded. And we had someone sort of do some data mining and said, all right, if we whitelist these, I don't know, let's say 30 certificates
Mhm.
and these 100 binaries, then like 7% of the people would have never seen a pop-up. Like that will cover all of the stuff that these 70% of these people do. And the other 30% are just they're running all sorts of the long tail of random stuff.
I only had like less than a dozen unsigned binaries.
Yeah.
That from like a week's worth of logs. But I misspoke. I have 10,235 events that are not going to be uploaded soon.
The server's gonna be like, whoa.
But speaking of Dropbox, earlier, that was the article that kept getting reshared about Dropbox is stealing your password. There's just so much bad information out there. So, just to repeat, don't panic. Dropbox isn't doing anything that awful.
It was just a little. Yeah.
I filed
It
a.
wasn't.
It wasn't doing what that guy was saying.
It wasn't bad. It was just kind of like really.
There was also that other article like a week or two ago, guy talking about using a USB device and getting all these credentials.
Yeah.
Oh well, if you have NTLM turned on your Active Directory,
Right, but
and you needed to be like Windows because
Yeah, but
Macs would
he
have
said it
detected
worked
the device.
on Mac OS. He basically claimed it worked on everything, and when I saw that, I thought I would really like to test this because on Mac OS, when it sees a new network interface, you get that pop-up. Hey,
Right.
do you want to activate this? I found a new network interface, right? So I'm not convinced that would have worked on Mac OS, but I would really like to test it.
You need a big cascade failure for that to work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced. Like before, I never reshared that article. We read it and we all kind of went like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." Oh, wait a minute, no,
that requires a
work.
whole bunch of dumb things to be happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's a clever attack.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it works on. It sounds like it works on Windows by giving it a proxy file or something, right? And then it redirects.
WPAD.
Proxy.
No, it's like what is it? WSUS something?
WPAD.
Something.
Yeah.
I forget what it. I forget now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those attacks are interesting. And I read like the serious security researchers are doing, like using Rowhammer to like hack other VM instances on the same machine to like, all right, yeah, you win.
Yeah. Whereas phishing is gonna like
Yeah.
just ask them for their password. Like that's not. Why get complex with it?
I mean, so speaking of Maxis admin conferences, I'm going to be out there and giving a talk on like practical security, and I think that's one of the things that I really want to make a distinction. Right? You hear about these things that, oh my God, these people were able to hack into a Mac, and it was just like, yeah, they found this exploit and hopped to this, which opened up that, and there's this other thing. And it's like, yes, it's an exploit, but it's like it's not something you have to practically worry about in most cases. Like, yes, there are these exploits, but getting them to actually work, it's
I think the modern sort of technology version of Biff going back to the future, you're going back with the sports encyclopedia would be like a security researcher going back to like 1990, going, I can own everything.
Yeah.
I can run the world, right?
Totally,
Like
totally. Well, that was the claim from what was that hacking the loft, right? They basically were like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we could shut down the whole internet if we really wanted
Right.
to. And they probably.
So like BGP routing or something was totally exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Look, in hindsight, it's like, oh my God, this stuff.
Yeah, like if you had like, someone who spent their career like looking in and all these, hacks and cracks and backdoors and then went back like, 20 years
Yeah,
to like when everything was just like, I hadn't even thought of like, still using telnet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But in a way,
What's SSL,
we've sort of lucked out because those huge exploits are, announced when you've had a year to patch.
Yeah.
And now we're going to finally disclose the horrible thing that's about to happen to all the servers you haven't updated.
Yeah.
And one of these days, the big one will happen on 0 day, and it will,
But it'll happen Friday at 4 p.m.
Right.
Yeah, it'll happen. I mean,
I put in for a bug bounty for the first time because Crocker thought that that's the best way that I should file a bug against Dropbox. And I was like, are they going to like kill my reputation? No, they have this thing called Signal. And I don't know how bug bounty programs work, but it was kind of like, no, actually, I'm just telling you that Santa's going to flag your stuff every time you update it. Like, don't give me the administrative overhead and don't run a set UID file that's unsigned. You can sign that. You have it within your power to do so.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like tried to tell them like, hey, this is an encryption problem. You're not signing
Yes.
your set UID file. And so that's how I spun
signing
it.
Everything should be signed. Sign it all.
Yeah, I think
and that's like, it's weird that those aren't signed too. It's like everything else, it's easy to sign something.
Well, like the thing that's going to pop up is the Dropbox installer of I'm smacking your,
Yeah.
like, why don't you want that you're handing off to something critical? Why would you let that be possibly modifiable on disk? And then the people are going to point the finger at Dropbox. There's going to be actually something worthwhile you have to yell at them about, not that they're doing what they normally do, which is the shadow IT that you bought them for, that you wanted them to do to your system.
Yeah, and I think that's been our biggest hurdle, or at least our biggest feedback for developers, both external and some internal. Sign your stuff. Why isn't this signed? Right?
Yeah.
Like, we do have some teams that have come to us and they said like, oh, Santa bugs me every time we have to. It's like, yeah, well, whitelisted by certificate. Why isn't it signed?
The Google certificate is signed,
Yeah.
or it's whitelisted. So if you sign it with our, it's fine. You
Yeah.
have access to that.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about people who are writing software, building, checking, rebuilding. We're talking about people who like release tools internally and have a build process. Sign your stuff. Most of it is, which is good. But
Yeah.
there are still these cases. And externally as well, right? Like, why isn't your helper app signed? Why isn't your updater signed? Because that's the thing. Sometimes an app will be signed, great, and then it goes to self-update. I get the pop-up because it's signed.
So I put on.
There's been a couple we've had where the uninstaller is not signed.
Yeah.
So, like, can't, so you can run this thing and we have the binary is
Hope you like
so
it.
it runs, but you run the uninstaller, it's like, no, can't, I don't know what this is.
I downloaded everything with auto package, and then I looked at how many things by doing just like a walk in the cache directory of everything that ended with .app. So I missed like privileged helper tools. I missed like some possible components that wouldn't be in the app bundle. But of the 1,500 things that I found with .app, that auto package fetched for me over the course of an hour and filled up 80 gigs of hard drive space. About 2/3 were signed, and the majority of the things that weren't were Sparkle update, were the updater app. It's like you won't know that you haven't whitelisted it until it pops up, and it's kind of like I understand their dilemma of that's not my code. I kind of get it, but you shipped it. You own the entire bundle.
Yep.
You own everything in there, no matter where you dropped it on the disk. So I see it both ways, and at the same time, it's kind of like, well, all right, now I need to clean this stuff up.
Yeah, I think because of all the code signing with the App Store and everything, developers are getting a little bit
Gatekeeper.
more hip to it. Yeah, and Gatekeeper. So
Would you like me to throw this away for you?
yeah,
You know, like that's a pretty good motivation for a developer.
All right. Before we wrap, any last questions? All All right, hopefully your Sierra deployments are pain-free. Check in next month. All right, thanks everybody.